Justin Knipper, you guys have been with us since the very beginning. A little bit of it's not even sad for me because I just want you guys to
Thanks,
be able.
man.
Well,
No, I'm just kidding.
I just want you guys to be able to do what you want. Like I don't want to be a hurdle in any way. And I know with the way that we structure our network, it's like it's a weekly show, and in order to do a show, which you've been doing with Fumi, who is in Japan, so it's just like a different schedule, it's a
It's
different time
unique
zone,
for sure.
and yet you guys created like fantastic shows, and it's not like a goodbye for us because we'll still do stuff together. I'm sure you'll be pulled into different shows and asked to join and do some stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna miss having that show because you guys were our first really big needle mover and have always been the most consistent show when it comes to downloads. And it's literally talking Japanese history with one of the best people to talk about that. So that I thought that was very unique, and you had a specific way of hosting that show of trying to guide Fumi and then just let him go, and then he just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, and you wait for him to stop, and then you pop in and add another. So yeah, I'm gonna miss that, and but I wanted to give you the opportunity just to kind of check in and make sure that people know that you guys are good and possibly still doing some stuff down the line.
Yeah, I know what you mean by like not sad because it's not like the show isn't going away. It's we just like we were talking just before the scheduling and our lives are different from what we started doing this. I think it was during the pandemic time.
Yeah, and that change life changed back
Very
to
much
kind of
so.
what it was, and so it's a little harder to have the free time that we once did.
And in Japan, things just this spring caught up to the rest of us in terms of like restrictions, regulations on what to do outside and going to work and such. So, like for example, Fumi's back on the schedule teaching at college campuses, like on the campus in the classrooms. He also is working on a Rikidozan book right now, and the deadlines are getting tighter. So unfortunately, we just can't meet that breakneck publishing speed of Fight Game Media. But no, I mean we plan on doing what we do. It's just we need to what's the word? Re-strategize,
Yeah.
and so that it fits. So, like you said, the time difference is a kicker too, man. Sometimes a lot of the times I was recording these shows over here, it was like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
or it's just. But I think we banged out at least more than 100 shows.
Oh my gosh. We had the Patreon originally. We were releasing these originally on the Patreon, and then we moved over to the free network. And there were times where you would dig back into the archives because for whatever reason you guys couldn't record. And so we released a few some of those episodes originally on the Patreon, also on the free feed. But yeah, like I don't even like I would have to go back and see some of the dates in which we first posted, but it's definitely been uh over 2 years. So that would be at least 100 episodes, I think.
I think it's just sometimes we'll spend almost a month on one person. Like
Mm-hmm.
we did that with the Inoki was like 5 part. It's like 7 hours of stuff.
It
Baba's
was
was like 4 hours. Muto's was long. So that's kind of what it seems. It just feels different than other shows because the topics we don't stray too much.
yeah.
Like we try to keep it like we're still talking about the person, but it's like chronological. It's just a different flow.
Yeah, and it's evergreen, right?
That's the idea too.
It doesn't age. It's somebody could find the show and be like, "Oh, I want to download all of these episodes because it's a subject that I'm very interested in." And it's not a timely thing like that. Those 5 episodes of Inoki are going to still be worthy of people listening to in 10, 20 years, and so that I think that's what was kind of unique and also really, really great about your guys' show is anybody could just sort of grab it and listen to it. You didn't have to listen to it exactly when the time you guys publish it. It could just be whenever people had the opportunity or whenever folks found you. So um, I know that, when you and I first got together to do this, you were still doing some stuff for F4W. I don't even know if you do do you do anything with those guys right now?
I was Nason asked me to do one of the Rampage shows, like a fill-in recently. I just couldn't do it. I realized that I had TBS, but I didn't have TNT,
Oh,
and it
got it.
was on TNT that night.
Right.
Or
I get
so
it is a TNT show.
yeah. For some reason, I thought it was on TBS, but I anytime they need me, they hit me up and let me know. It's just again scheduling or not having TNT. But
But I mean, think about the project that we took on, which was pandemic, post-pandemic. We're like, okay, what are we gonna try and do? Like, let's try and build the website back up. And then we did that, and we got people writing, people were writing a lot of stuff. You had written the piece on uh the Joshi woman who passed away,
Honey Kimura,
Hanukkah Mura. And like that was like a 3 or 4-parter, and
yeah.
I know you put a ton of effort into that, and that was kind of like, wow, like we're actually producing really good content and people are reading it. And I mean, it wasn't scalable in any way. It was during the pandemic, so I just wanted people to have something to do and make a little cash on the side. And then out of that came the podcast idea, and we did that, and it was just these two big projects. But I was talking to someone today. The pandemic seems like it was like 5 years ago for me for some reason, and I think it's just because we do so much stuff that it just feels like it was kind of like a lifetime ago. But it wasn't that long ago when we were doing all this stuff. And you know, now you have a new job, and you're busy with Noah and such. And so I don't know. It's kind of like a nice, like I have a nice memory of that point in time where it was kind of a terrible thing for society, but we kind of created something out of that, and it's nice to think back on that.
No, I mean it was our like everybody that we've been working with over the past couple years, it was like all of our woodshed time. It was
Yeah.
all like I didn't even plan on doing podcasts. It was more like I remember especially there was a chance there was the G1 that was not in front of any. It was still during the pandemic, and I remember Carlos Toro and we
Hmm.
did pretty
Oh
much
yeah,
every day. We did the G1
that's
cast.
right.
It wasn't on the Patreon, it was on the regular feed as, like, a bonus fight game show, but that was
That's
where, like
right.
I mean, Carlos, I think he had more experience than me at that point, but we were doing it pretty much every day because there was nothing else for us to do, and we did the whole tournament, and it was just, like, that stuff like that, or, like, Ryan Frederick always turned in a great Monday article,
Yep.
like meaty too, and he like, if you're a writer out there, he's so what's the word, like reliable, like
Hmm.
the proof is in the pudding. Absolutely, like every week he's turning it. Like as an editor, it's like it helped me grow because I got somebody that was so consistent,
Hmm.
and it was really cool that like it's like, wow, I'm working with a pro. It's cool. Not to say everybody was great, but everybody was different too. And
Yeah.
what Ryan was doing was very particular. And like writing a 500 to 700 word piece that's like fun and about pro wrestling, that's cool, but it's different. It's a different technique almost. What Ryan was
Hmm.
doing was just he had the scoops in those articles.
Yeah.
That's where I was kidding him, you know. I was like, "Oh, damn, that's some cool news. I didn't know about that." And then you hear about it 2 days later, 3 days later. I'm like, "Hey,
Yeah.
Ryan told me that a couple days ago." But like, I think that woodshed time is like sharpening our tools,
Yeah.
and because a lot of stuff I do at Noah, it's not exactly the same, but my approaches are the same. And like,
Hmm.
I think everybody, I was like I loved seeing Mike and JD's writing. Like JD like opened up a new door
Oh yeah.
writing about wrestling. It's like for me when I knew for me it was no brainer, but like it's he's so good at it. Like Mike's impact stuff got so tight by the end.
Hmm.
I mean, it kind of transferred over to the show, but I mean that's something that we learned too. Like people that like impact really like impact,
Yeah.
and there is a crowd, a market for it,
Yeah.
despite like whatever people want to talk smack about. It's just like that's what it was, and that was really interesting to like they capitalized on it. That's awesome. And fight game was like an incubator for all that kind of cool stuff.
I like that word a lot, the incubator,
Yeah.
and that approach because, I always tell everyone, I'm like, we do stuff, but it's not set in stone. Like, we gotta figure out what works, what doesn't work. We gotta experiment. We gotta move fast. And we have this YouTube channel and, the show that's replacing write that down because we need a specific amount of shows in the feed to kind
Mm.
of keep our downloads up. That show is created sort of in an incubator style through the YouTube channel. It was like, hey, like two guys want to do a podcast. Well, we don't have room in the feed. So we'll let them do it on YouTube. YouTube is just like infinite. Like there's not too much content for YouTube. And they did like a year, I think, of shows.
God, it's been that
And
long.
and it's based on New Japan Pro Wrestling, right? So it's like that beat. Now it's not history. There's no Fumi. Like nobody has the knowledge of Fumi. Fumi's forgotten more about wrestling than I'll ever know. But at the same time, we were able to kind of keep the Japanese wrestling beat in the feed because you want variety. You don't want 7 WWE shows. You want one WWE show, and then you want an AEW show, then you want a Japanese wrestling show, and then you want kind of like, Mike and JD kind of hit some of the other stuff, but their show in of itself is kind of like, if you thought of what a morning show would be for like that kind of style, that's what they do. And mine's a little bit more interview. I'm going to bring in more people. So you want to have that variety. And you guys, I really consider your show with Fumi as like the real standout, like our first ever standout show from that feed, and attracted more ears to other shows because they subscribe to the network. And I think a lot of people subscribed for Write That Down. So I appreciate that from both of you. But the other thing when it comes to running this network now, we're still really at the beginning stages of this, and who knows, you never know with people's schedules and work. And I think people, at least the podcasters on our side, they value what they do and they value being a part of something. So I don't think anybody's, necessarily going, oh, Justin and Fumi left, I think it's time for me to leave. I think they just feel like, oh, we're going to lose a big show. So we got to kind of improve our thing and make sure that we don't lose the downloads that when you lose kind of that big show, the tent pole show of the week. But as far as what you guys are doing, do you sense like, and this is a passion project for you and Fumi. This is not your job. It's not his job. He loves talking about this stuff, and I know you love talking to him. But have you thought about like, could you actually take this elsewhere? Like, I don't know if like Fumi has connections for, outside of Dave, obviously, but he does a show with Jim Valley already on F4W. But I do wonder if like, maybe someone who's not looking for necessarily a weekly show, but like a monthly historical show. I do wonder if you guys could like shop it elsewhere.
That and we've talked about adding a more video element to it. We just need time because this kind of officially it came recently, but we just need more time to talk about it, to
Yeah.
talk about what we want to do, what works. And I don't know what's better or worse. Is it better if I'm on location and we do it like a one shot,
Mm-hmm.
or like the overseas thing production is limited to certain quality?
Yeah.
um what kind of foot we want to start using footage in the video stuff too, but it's still a lot of planning,
Yeah.
and but on the other hand, it's like with speaking of strong style show, it fills the void, but also it's like what better time to put it on than right before the G1,
Yeah. No,
you
it's good.
know?
It was good timing on that. And it was just like, you and I, we had a conversation a few weeks ago. It was getting a little harder for you to get the weekly stuff. And I was like, and then you told me, you're like, hey, I'm kind of running out of the classic content too.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, we can, maybe we can do once a month. We can do the Speaking of Strong Style, and you guys do three weeks out of the month. But then, I could just sort of sense from you, you're like, yeah, it's just going to be a lot harder to get the weekly show. And so at that point, we're friends. So it's just like, you don't want to hold us back, and I don't want to force you to do something that's becoming much harder for you to do. And we were just like, hey, we can sort of figure this out, and at some point down the road, always circle back if need be. But this was the right time to make the switch, and now I'm sure you'll have less pressure on your shoulders come Wednesday evening when I'm like, hey, what's going on? Do you have
No,
anything?
I
And you're
don't
like,
mind that.
oh no, I gotta talk to Fumi about something.
Yeah. No, I mean it was an organic restructuring. It's just kind of like I don't know, we're just moving, but like we're still I don't know. It's just we're gonna build on what we're gonna do, and it takes more time to produce those kind of
Yeah.
shows, and it's just a fight game, and there's gonna be more people listening to fight game, and it's just it's evolution.
If Fumi, I'm sure Fumi's got some, fans of his who you're like, hey, you guys want to edit some audio for nothing? And they're like, yes, anything to be in the presence of Fumi, as long as he just returns my emails. Yes.
The
And just
one the one thing that's kind of related to that, but the one thing that's been so cool about Write That Down is such an eclectic mix of people reaching out and being just I'm so flattered by some of the things that I've been told by some fan, and they're from all over. It's not that like the fans just from Japan or the States or Europe, but like all over Europe, people from the Middle East and people from Australia. I mean, it's just you never know who you're going to connect with. And
mhm.
for something like for Write That Down, it's so specific. And what I'm proud of being a part of in terms of that show is that it is evergreen, but it's from people like Fumi who were there. And with Japanese wrestling, when it enters the English arena, it tends to, especially these days, there's almost disgusting amount of misinformation out
Yeah.
there. It's just it's rooted in nothing. If anything, it's rooted in like Google translation, like a poor Google translation. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, what you're hearing is like, Fumi was there for most of what we talk about. I mean, if you like it, you don't like it, that's cool. But I mean, it's we always talk about like this is going to be there forever,
Yeah.
and it's meant to be used as a resource because we're both writers. So having all of that official analysis and discussion about people like Giant Baba and Ricky Dozan
Mhm.
or Ultimo Dragon or Ricky Choshu, whomever you like, we've most likely hit. There's a couple that we haven't though that I'm really excited to eventually, but it has to be the right time.
Here's a question for you
Mm,
now. You are preparing. So Fumi comes up with the subject, and you guys sort of deep dive, but you kind of have to know about the subject at hand as well.
mm.
So you have knowledge about some history of Japanese wrestling, and more of the current scene. You're pretty aware of that, obviously. But how much research do you actually have to do before you do a show with him? Like, are you like reading up on stuff, or you just kind of know, okay, this is the general thing that we're doing. I just need to kind of get Fumi going, and then and then I'll just fill in some of the bits when he takes a second thought.
Yeah, it's the latter. I'm ready to go anytime. That's my style. It's the
Hmm.
same with Fumi's style too. He says he has to wait from the message from the gods above to tell him. That was with the Minoru Suzuki deal. He
Yeah,
waited and
that was
waited,
perfect timing.
right? When and then when all that stuff happened, I'm just like, well, I guess he did speak to an angel.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
no, I it was the same when I did the Tokyo Dome this year. I mean, there was stuff that I prepared, but I mean, I'm around it all the time, and it's like a 24/7 thing for me anyway, so just yeah, let's go. Sometimes I do a little research. I want to maybe find some extra details that I didn't know. So
yeah.
I might like look at like the Japanese version of something I'm reading because
Hmm.
like a Wikipedia entry actually has different info.
Right.
So or details that are valued over here but not over here. So just for supplemental stuff, but in general, I mean, yeah, we just freestyle.
Well,
But Fumi has a lot of notes though. Fumi does a lot of but he has like he's prepared notes. Like he has.
Yeah, it's probably just stuff that he's just has, like,
Mhm.
literally he's prepared it before, and he can
Yeah.
just kinda go back to how Dave will go into his observer stash to find certain things to refresh his memory on stuff.
I when we started doing the show, and maybe more with like high tension, uh, I had like a really more organized layout
And that was the
planning.
show that you and JD did
Yeah.
before Write That Down.
And John LaRocca originally.
Oh, was John LaRocca on that show? I
That
didn't
was
remember that.
that was the original lineup, but his schedule just got kind of busy, and
Yeah, yeah,
he's doing the solo show. So,
yeah.
and it was the same with JD and I. I love doing shows with JD. It was just kind of like that time to just switch it up, and I'm game to always do whatever.
Yeah, well, I'm going to miss taking the file that you would send me and, just kinda just level it out a little bit, and I'm gonna miss the intro song. Like, what a fantastic song for a podcast, and you intro and outroed every single episode with that song. I don't even know if I asked you, like, where did you get that from?
I made it.
So you just so
I
because
used his
there
voice. I used Jericho's voice at the beginning. That's what Fumi wanted me to do.
so Jericho where did Jericho say, "Write that down"?
It was during the press conference before Jericho versus Omega, when Jericho freaked out and they got into a big fight, and Don Callis was wearing the neck brace.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh, when Jericho was going off, Fumi was in the front row, and he said, "Hey, you write that down, Fumi Saito."
That is amazing. I had no idea that that's where that came from.
Yep, it's from a New Japan press conference, 2018.
Wow.
2018, yeah, January 2018. I think it's on New Japan World or YouTube, but that's what I clipped it from, and it's Jericho yelling at Fumi.
But did you slow Jericho's voice down a little bit?
In the early ones, there's a couple versions I did. I did mess with his voice.
Okay, okay. Got it. That's
And
amazing.
I used to have a sample of, and I put some reverb and delay on Fumi's voice going, "Hello from
Right,
Tokyo."
right, 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 right.
That
Yeah.
was the older one. But whenever I used the delay and the reverb stuff, it would always make my track sound like watery and washed
Uh-huh.
out. So the newer one, it had a more clear, crisp sample of Jericho's voice, and I always try to do little tweaks to like change it, but not too much. Just because I was always like, am I annoying people putting the same song every time? Because do you ever watch YouTube and you watch a couple of videos from the same person, and it's just like that same annoying tune that they use? Like sometimes I get annoyed by those things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, audio podcast a little bit different, I think. I think people kind of like the repetitiveness because it reminds them of what's coming, right? It's like a
Uh,
Pavlovian thing. But also just I'll just mention, I think every intro song that we have on all of our shows, which are all different and distinct, with the exception of one, was made by you. So that's another thing. You will always have your imprint on this network, whether you're doing shows with us or not, because your work is in the intro music of every show that is on the network. So that's another thing that that people just wanted people to know about. But I'm gonna let you go because I know you still have work to do tonight
yeah.
because you are
Couple
on a
hours, I gotta do a production something or other.
on a different timeline than us because you work with people in Japan. So I just want to say again, thank you for everything that you have done for the network, for Write That Down, for High Tension, for the editing that you did when we had the website kind of going on fire. And it's not goodbye for us.
I'm still around.
You're
I'm
still gonna
here.
be you're still gonna be in the Slack.
I'm in the Slack. That's what it's all. I mean, I don't use the Discord, so the Slack is all I got now. The Slack and the Fight Dynasty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
But
yeah, but you'll be around, and I just
I'll
wanted to
pop
do
in.
this. I just wanted to do this so that people knew, why you guys are moving on and how we're cool and everything is great between us. So,
Oh yeah, no, it's
um,
just if people, some stuff is coming soon. Reach out to us on social media if you want to. I'm at Justin M Nipper and Fumi's Fumihiko Daio. We say it on every show. I feel like I should just read the script, but we're around and stuff's coming soon. So
all right,
we're just changing things up, and well, I'll be around.
you heard
I
it
ain't going anywhere.
from the host of Write That Down's
I'm
mouth.
Fight Game for life.
There you go. Justin Knipper. Thanks again for doing this, man, and
I
we'll
hope.
chat soon.
Yeah, man.